I could have made this video a month ago and it would have been totally valid, but I gave Tyrese Haliburton time. I have given him plenty of time. This dude is not an all-star anymore. I don't know what is wrong with him, but the player that we saw in the first half of last season, the guy who was looking like a first-team All-NBA candidate in the in-season tournament last year, is gone. And I don't know where he went, because Tyrese Haliburton has gone from one of the brightest young stars at the point guard position in the entire league to a guy who is just all of a sudden, I'm not even sure he's a helpful player to his team on a consistent basis. Now, he's had a couple of good games, including a couple recently, but as a whole, he just seems broken. Like, I don't know what's wrong with Tyrese Haliburton, but it's baffling and it's killing the Pacers. Like, yes, he wasn't great in the second half of last season either, but they, number one, played really well. Number two, not the toughest schedule ever in terms of getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they were even competitive in the Eastern Conference Finals, despite the series not looking competitive at the end. Like, all those games were competitive. They don't look good this year, the Pacers. And I think the Tyrese Haliburton issue is the thing that is causing the struggles for the Pacers to this point in the season, the reason they don't look like the same team. Before we hop into it, if y'all haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 1,000 subscriber mark on the channel, uploading every single day, multiple videos a day, most days. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. I know the last couple of days have been a little bit less on the uploads, but we're trying to do 3 a day if at all possible. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, Tyrese, tonight, as I record this video against the Pacers, 8 points, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 of 10, 2 of 9 from the field, or from the 3, in 37 minutes. I don't get it. He doesn't have the same quick burst to the rim. He doesn't have the ability to beat defenders off the dribble, period, it seems like the majority of the time. Like, he's just not shifty. Like, centers are guarding him on switches in a way that a lot of other point guards in the East, top PGs, are going to burn. Like Jalen Brunson, Damian Lillard, those guys are creating space, getting themselves a good shot. Tyrese Haliburton, I can go on. Tyrese Haliburton has not been able to do that this year against mismatches. Like, he doesn't look like the same player. Yes, he's still a very gifted passer, but there are so many issues with Tyrese Haliburton's game this year. He's never been a good defender, and he's still not. I don't know. Like, when he's one of the more dynamic offensive players in the sport, you can overlook the other deficiencies on the defensive end of the court and stuff. When he's a net negative offensively too, you can't overlook anything. I mean, this dude's actively not helping his team win the majority of the time, it feels like, this season. And it's a shame to say, because look, I actually like the Pacers. I've got some friends who are big Pacers fans. I want to see Tyrese Haliburton succeed, but he seems like a great dude. I mean, he really does seem like a great guy. From everything I can tell, seems like a super likable, super respectable, super good dude, but he's just plain and simply not playing very good basketball. And it's been going on for quite a while at this point. I mean, when you look at the Pacers stats, Ben Mathurin has had a very, very good start to the year, is really emerging as a star caliber player. Pascal Siakam is 42.5% from 3, almost 60% from inside the 3-point line this season, having an incredibly efficient, incredibly effective season. And Tyrese Haliburton is shooting 34% from 3, less than 51% from inside the 3-point line, which isn't great. Only 40% from the field overall, because he's shooting the majority of his shots from the 3-point line, because you can't beat defenders off the dribble and get into the paint. The only thing he is doing well is he has an 8.7 to 1.9 assist to turnover ratio, more than 4 times, more than a 4 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, which is really good. The playmaking is still there, but that's about the only thing he's doing well on the court this season. It seems like I just don't think he's helping this team win. And even in the Eastern Conference, that's not acceptable. They're getting real viable contributions from Siakam, Ben Mathurin, Miles Turner, still a legit shot blocker. Is he a little overrated as a rim protector? Maybe. But he's a great shot blocker. He's having a good year shooting the ball. Siakam and Mathurin are beasts, playing really, really high-level basketball. I know Andrew Nembhard has struggled and has had some injury issues, but Aaron Nesmith is one of the better two-way 3-and-D type guys in the league. Really good defender, is shooting the crap out of the ball again. Ben Shepherd is looking like he's turning into a decent real player. Another guy shooting the ball really, really well. Obi Toppin's not playing awesome, but he's still a contributor. The guard depth off the bench isn't great too, to be fair. I mean, TJ McConnell hasn't been good. That's annoying. I actually really like what I've seen out of Jarris Walker, though. I think he's a really good defensive player who's also shooting the ball quite well for the second year in a row. Seems like a really solid pick, even though he's still not playing a ton. When he has played, he's been really, really good. And that's the issue, is I feel like this team as a whole is getting all these contributions from all these different guys. They have relatively solid depth. They've got 3 guys playing high-level basketball in Siakam, Mathurin, and Turner. They need their perceived superstar, their perceived best player, their perceived leader to play at even just a solid level. If he was shooting a little higher 3-ball percentage, like a little bit closer to 38%, And more importantly, if he was able to actually beat defenders off the dribble at a higher level than it seems like he's able to right now, he just doesn't have the shiftiness to get past dudes. And because they can stay in front of him, he resorts to these chuck up, ball away, deep step back threes that are just ugly shots and just don't seem like they even have a prayer going in most of the time. His offense is just not diverse enough, and it's killing the Pacers. It really is. I mean, this is a team that, after losing today to the Grizzlies, is 9-11, and the other, or 9-12, I'm sorry. So even worse. And when you look at the standings, like 9-12 isn't horrific in the East. If this was the Western Conference, they'd already be screwed. They'd be the 13 seed. But in the West, or in the East, they're the 8 seed right now. They're a game and a half out of the 6 seed, 2 games out of the 5 seed, which, to be fair, they're not going to be a top 5 seed. I think the Cavs, Celtics, Magic, Knicks, and Bucks pretty much have that locked up. The Pacers want that 6 seed, though. You don't want to be in the play-in. I promise you, you don't want to see Cleveland or Boston in the first round. That's not going to end well. Plain and simple, it's not. I can guarantee you that it is not going to end well for the Pacers if that's the matchup they get in the first round. Their only hope to make a run is to get into a top 6 seed, realistically. And I just don't see it happening this year. And maybe if things go well, they can be the 6th best team in the East. But that feels like the peak for this team this year, and I don't feel like they are really positioned to make all that much of a run. It feels like this team might wind up being one of those squads we look back on in a couple years, just like, for example, the Hawks, who made a conference finals run in 2021? Was it 2020, 2021? I think it was 2021. And it just has fallen apart since then for them in a lot of ways. Like they've been stuck in mediocrity ever since. Feels like that could very easily be the path for the Pacers as well, especially with the struggles of Tyrese Haliburton. And the biggest concern, honestly, for the Pacers is standings-wise, it's not great. It already doesn't look like they're going to be set up for a good first-round matchup this year. No home court advantage, anything like that. But it also doesn't really get much easier. Like they have a nice little 4-game stretch coming up: Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Charlotte. But then they'll have a couple in-season tournament, regular season games, whatever, in between this gap. But then they got Phoenix, Sacramento, who's pretty good. Golden State, struggling a little bit as of late, but pretty good. Oklahoma City, great. Boston twice, great. Milwaukee, playing really well. Miami, always feisty, although having their own issues. Phoenix, like there's a stretch here into, honestly, early to mid-January, because then you get Brooklyn, Chicago, but then again, you get Golden State, Cleveland. Like, for a team that is playing in a not even just a perceived, in a definitely weak Eastern Conference, their schedule is pretty tough in the near future when you compare it to a lot of these other teams that are going to have kind of cakewalk schedules in the East. This, if it doesn't get better quickly, could kind of snowball and put the Pacers pretty far behind the 8 ball. They could wind up going into February, sitting there as the 10 seed. Like, what's going on this year? Is this year just shot? Like, is it over? Like, I would not be shocked at all to see that be the case. And for a team that just made the Eastern Conference Finals and felt like they were on a massive come up, the way that this season has started for them, in large part due to Tyrese Haliburton's struggles, is unfortunate, because I like the Pacers. And it's just disappointing to a Pacers fan base, to the Pacers front office, to this whole team who has built this roster with the idea being to at least be a contender, a competitor in the East. And all of a sudden, that looks like that's just not going to happen. And that's a shame. But hopefully they get things figured out, because like I said, I actually do. I got a soft spot for the Pacers. I really do like him. I think Tyrese is a great guy. I hope he gets it figured out, but if he does it, I think this team's kind of screwed. Hope y'all did enjoy the video. If y'all did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.